Welcome to day 6 of the 120 days of Nobel's literary pilgrimage, the ultimate book lovers challenge, where you and I are going to read at least a sample of every one of 120 winners of the Nobel Prize for Literature. All those 120 winners since 1901, all the way up to 2023. And I'm going to be releasing one of these videos so that you and I can both say we have read just a little bit of every winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature since 1901. How many people on earth can say they have done that and do it all in time for the announcement of the 2024 winner of the Nobel Prize in Stockholm in October 2024. In this story so far, in this first batch of 6 Nobel Prizes, we've seen different forms of nationalism and different forms of regional cultural pride. We've seen some attitudes expressed that perhaps are not that well looked upon these days, and we've seen writers who have been very much, traditionalists rather than embracers of the modernism that is breaking out within the culture of Europe, the culture of the world in the early 20th century, as the Nobel Prize for Literature is becoming the world's most prestigious prize. But its early prize winners are more conservative establishment figures. We've seen a politician, we've seen a national poet, we've seen the poet of Provence, the national poet of Provence. And we've seen the prize shared between the states of France and Germany and Spain and the new state of Norway. In 1905, it is again a story of nationalism in these early Nobel Prizes for Literature. And the 1905 winner of the Nobel Prize is a proud patriot of a country that then also did not exist, and that was Poland. This Nobel Prize winner wrote, "Poland, Poland, the very name carries with it sighings and groanings, nation murder, brilliance, beauty, patriotism, splendors, self-sacrifice through generations of gallant men and exquisite women, indomitable endurance of bands of noble people carrying through worldwide exile the sacred fire of wrath against the oppressor, and uttering in every clime a cry of appeal to humanity to rescue Poland." Echoes of that kind of rhetoric continue even in our own time, and that author is Henryk Sienkiewicz, and that quote comes from his text, The Knights of the Cross. In Poland, he is best known, best remembered for his trilogy of historical novels set in the 17th century Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth around 1648. And these novels feature iconic figures from both Polish history and Ukrainian history. Jan Kazimir and Bogdan Chmelnytsky. And the 3 novels include With Fire and Sword, The Deluge, and Sir Michael. Internationally, Sienkiewicz is known for the novel Quo Vadis, which was set in Nero's Rome and was made into an epic Hollywood film in 1951. His family were impoverished Polish nobles who, on the father's side, came from Tatars who had settled in the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. Tatars were particularly strong in the area around Crimea. They were, if you like, the descendants of the Golden Horde. And when Sienkiewicz was born in eastern Poland near Ukraine, Poland was part of Russia. And Sienkiewicz absorbed as you heard there, a kind of resentful and heroic nationalism about the Polish nation, which of course had been partitioned in the late 18th century between Austria, Prussia and Russia, which had a long fall from grace, from being one of the most powerful states in Europe in, the 1500s or so, with a rather poor leadership group, the Szlachta, who led this nation into ruin, indeed into deluge, the title of one of those books. And in 1648, this included the most dreadful ethnic massacres, including anti-Semitic massacres that were perpetrated by that hero of Poland and of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and of Ukraine, Bogdan Chmelnytsky. But Polish nationalism was a cause célèbre in the 19th century, at least among the Western European powers who opposed Russia, which then controlled Poland as one of its sort of provinces. From the 1870s, Sienkiewicz travelled broadly out of his native Poland into Europe and the United States, and from the 1880s he dedicated himself to this great historical trilogy. He wrote Quo Vadis in the 1890s, and as his fame increased, his social and political activities in the service of Polish nationalism took more and more centre stage. He died in 1916, a few years before Poland regained its new life in the 20th century, post-Treaty of Versailles, post-Russian Revolution, post-breakdown of the Imperial Russian state, post the self-determination of nations as advocated by Woodrow Wilson. Poland became its new nation state in the 1920s. Sienkiewicz was, like many of the early Nobels, aesthetically conservative and opposed to early modernism. In 1893, he wrote that novels should strengthen and ennoble life rather than undermining and debasing it. In a way, he was really an early blockbuster historical novelist, and Quo Vadis was a huge international success, which led to it becoming the book that was featured in that legendary 1951 Hollywood epic. The historical trilogy is really his great literary heritage, and the first of those novels, Fire and Sword, has those historical figures of Casimir and Chmelnytsky and numerous others. And let me read for you from the first page of this very long book. I think it's about 800 pages or so, and then there's 3 of them that describe the collapse of the Polish state and Polish society, either as victims of outsiders or victims of some of its own weaknesses in the 17th century. The year 1647 was that wonderful year in which manifold signs in the heavens and on earth announced misfortunes of some kind and unusual events. Contemporary chroniclers relate that beginning with springtime, myriads of locusts swarmed from the wilderness, destroying the grain and the grass. This was a forerunner of Tartar raids. In the summer there was a great eclipse of the sun, and soon after a comet appeared in the sky. In Warsaw a tomb was seen over the Oti, and a fiery cross in the clouds. Fasts were held and alms given, for some men declared that a plague would come on the land and destroy the people. Finally, so mild a winter set in that the oldest inhabitants could not remember the like of it. In the southern provinces, ice did not confine the rivers, which, swollen by the daily melting of snows, left their courses and flooded the banks. Rainfalls were frequent. The steppe was drenched and became an immense slog. The sun was so warm in the south that, wonder of wonders, in Bratislav in the wilderness, a green fleece covered the steppes and plains in the middle of December. The swarms in the beehives began to buzz and bustle. Cattle were bellowing in the fields. Since such an order of things appeared altogether unnatural, all men in Russia who were waiting or looking for unusual events, Russia or Euthia, who were waiting or looking for unusual events, turned their excited minds and eyes especially to the wilderness, from which rather than anywhere else danger might show itself. Now, you can read the full trilogy of Sienkiewicz's historical novels about Poland in courtesy of the Internet Archive, and I've got links to those books below. You can even listen to a LibriVox recording of some of them. But I think in many ways it's good to know Sienkiewicz, but it's also important to realise that his version of Polish history is very nationalist and has some regrettable dimensions to it, let's say. And it's interesting indeed that the later Nobel Prize winner Olga Tokarczuk, who won the prize, I think, from memory in 2018, and wrote a fabulous book, The Books of Jacob, which in many ways is set in the same period of this history of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, a very different story to what is told in Sienkiewicz's historical novel. And some even describe Tokarczuk's The Books of Jacob, which I regard as perhaps maybe the greatest historical novel yet of the 21st century, as an anti-Sienkiewicz. But we might explore that further many, many days from now in the 2018 Nobel Prize. In the meantime, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and you can follow all 128 days of the Nobel's literary pilgrimage right here on this playlist. Thanks for watching.